welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. This is an awesome show, a special production. I have in the studio today three absolutely over-the-top, remarkable alpha female African-American women, and we're going to be talking about women, politics, and power. That's right. We're going to go into the Holy Grail, and I'm going to introduce my guests today for all of you. I have Marsha Bonhart, who is a co-anchor on WDTN Channel 2, NBC affiliate news in Dayton, Ohio. I have next to me the Honorable Rhin McLin, the former mayor of Dayton, Ohio, and is currently the vice chair of the Ohio Democratic Party. It's my understanding she is the first African-American woman to hold this very prestigious position. And viewers, she is no joke. Don't let her pretty demeanor surprise you. And I have directly across from me Bari Roberts, who is a New York Times best-selling author of Roberts versus Texaco. She was I think history has documented that she won the largest class action lawsuit in American history, $175 million against Texaco Oil. And she is also a cancer survivor here today from Atlanta, Georgia. So bear with me. You want to sit down. You want to get familiar with these women we're going to be talking about amongst ourselves, and you get to kind of participate by listening in and watching this very, very sensitive subject. And so we're going to start with Marsha.
Yes, Michelle. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for having me.
Give our viewers a little bit of background about yourself, and I know you've been in media forever.
I've been in media over 3 decades.
Whoa, my goodness,
yes.
that's a long time.
A long time and a lot of stories.
I'm sure, I'm sure.
I started in radio and then moved on to television many years ago in my hometown of Toledo. And have been in Dayton twice. This is my second time in the Dayton market, and this time I've been here for 24 years.
Oh my goodness, you got some stories. Let's deal with you, madam.
I'm a native Daytonian. I was born and reared here, went to the Dayton Public School, been a state representative, a state senator. I was first African-American female state senator. I was also a minority leader of the Senate, and then I came back and was the first female mayor for Dayton. And now I'm vice chair of the state Democratic Party, and they keep telling me I'm probably the longest serving vice chair that they've had. So
wonderful. And you, madam?
Well, I am a native Ohioan, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've lived some of everywhere since I left Cincinnati. Currently, I'm residing in Atlanta. I am working on 2 books right now.
Wow.
One about, as you said, my struggle against cancer, and another I'm co-authoring with a young lady dealing with child sexual abuse.
Wow, you're touching child sexual abuse.
Yes, yes, because it's a very current subject. It's something that's not easy to talk about. It's certainly not easy to write about, and it's certainly not easy to live with. And it's something that, it's another one of those subjects that it's taboo, but we've got to talk about it.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I think it's, I just
No,
wanted to say that I
come
think
on.
that especially coming from someone as noted as you, Bari, that it could really help open up the door for African Americans to be able to start dealing with the subject. And that's one of the subject areas that we really don't deal with very well. And so having someone of your stature to write about that could be a step in the right direction of having the issue addressed. So I commend you for that.
We try to pretend that it doesn't happen within our community. We always think and try to say that it happens more mainstream in other ethnic groups, but unfortunately it does happen in black families.
Oh yes, it's that dirty little secret that's I think needs to get air. That's my feeling about it. The number of children whose lives are absolutely destroyed because of that type of violation of their innocence. It's disgusting.
And when you talk about power, the whole idea of it is that the victim is powerless. You know, there is no power, and it's a child. And what in my research, what I'm finding is that while it's predominantly girls, and as you can look at the headlines now, more and more and more it's coming about our young men. It's coming out about our young men
that have been
who are being abused.
Well, the color purple, and one of the things that was interesting about the color purple was that the movie, which was done by Steven Spielberg, was done from a male point of view,
Right.
but the play was done by Oprah Winfrey, which was done from a female point of view. And it made the difference in the world where it delicately opened up the subject in a way that you could see it but not be offended. Whereas I think when Color Purple was done by the male perspective, it was overshadowed.
And I think with her interjecting some of her personal feelings as well, because it's been noted, and it's no secret that she was abused as a child, as a young girl.
Well, I think you bring an interesting conversation about this male point of view versus female point of view. And all of you are incredibly strong and very, very successful women. And I think it's fair to say that your success has been in the male world with a female point of view. Is that fair?
Yeah, I guess we could say that, certainly. But I know after knowing Bari for the time that I've known her, and after reading the book and the detailed accounts of her experiences from college all the way through her experience with you know, the incident with Texaco, it's just amazing how you handled that and how smart you were, because she was basically all alone. I mean, there was no backup, there was no support for her, none whatsoever.
But I kind of sense, and you probably have had that same experience, Rhin, that when you are pushing an agenda that other people don't see or cannot understand, there is a period where you are alone, a lot. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's absolutely a fair statement for any females that are leaders and that are visionary, and that you have to be extremely strong, because so many times you have to truly stand alone. And so you have to know within yourself that you're doing the right thing, because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And I think that I like the little phrase that was given to me some time ago, and it was about, when it comes to women, we must use grace with grit, and sometimes grit with grace.
Oh, I like that. I think I
love that.
Grace with grit and grit with grace. And certainly you did not become vice chair of the Ohio Democratic Party without making that a mantra.
Well, yeah, and you know, one of the things that I really find that as women, and as we try to strive in our own roles, I see us as trailblazers, and I see us as sheroes that, when you think about the Harriet Tubmans and Patricia Roberts and the Shirley Chisholms, they didn't even have as much to work with as what we have today.
Yes.
And I think that we do a disservice if we aren't bringing our young women along to know that it's not going to be an easy road, and that you're going to have bumps in the road. So you might as well prepare yourself so that you will know that that little adversity is just preparing you for a wonderful opportunity.
No crystal stair.
Yes,
There's
I
no
hear you.
crystal
What were you going to say, Bari?
I was going to say, I think it's amazing, and even in the introductions, that, you know, when we were all introduced, that you're still saying the first. This was the first African-American woman, you know.
In these times.
Yeah, in these times, in 2012, that you're still saying, you know, I was the first African-American woman at Texaco in an executive position, okay? That Marsha was the first, you know.
Right.
When I came here the first time.
We're still talking about first. When she came here the first time, we're still talking about first in 2012, and it's amazing to me. But one of the things, as it was discussed, when you're in leadership, first of all, when you take that role, you decide to be alone. There's nobody on your side. You know, there's nobody advocating for you. There's nobody saying, oh, we think this is a good idea, you know, and we're going to put you out there. You take that step yourself. One of the things in my journey, and it was my journey through Texaco, through corporate America, it was my journey through cancer. And one of the things I learned, or three of the things I learned that hold people back,
Okay.
Okay, from succeeding or from being leaders or for taking a dare or a challenge. And the first thing I think is denial. One of the things when I was going through Texaco, and even when you first get cancer, you go, oh, it's not me. Oh, you must be wrong. The test must be wrong. But the first thing you want to do is to deny a situation, okay? When I was at Texaco and I was in that battle, other people were telling me, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not that bad. You know, you're wrong. It's not that bad just because you're the only one, you know. And they had been there years and years and years and had never been promoted. The second thing after denial I find is that people are apathetic. Well, that's just the way it is, you know. And the same thing with the battle with cancer. You know, oh, it's just the way it is. I have it. And, you know, I don't think they can do anything for me. They say they can't do anything for me. So apathy is a big stopper. It's a big blocker. And then of the two of those, I think the third biggest thing is fear. Fear of being different, fear of standing alone, fear of taking a chance, fear of standing out from the crowd. If you're not with the crowd, you're not safe. If you are with the crowd, you're not safe.
Right, right,
You
right,
know?
right.
So I think those three things, and I think that people who overcome are people who take a dare and be like Marsha and step out and say, okay, I'm going to be in broadcast. And then only I'm going to be in broadcast, I'm going to be the anchor. Okay,
See, I
and
think
I'm
that
going
is
to go out
so
there. That is
awesome.
phenomenal
I
to
just
me.
do. I think that you're just an incredible
Or
woman.
people like you who
Yeah.
say, you know, I'm going to take control.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to run the show. I'm going to start it. I'm going to run it. I'm going to own it. There are not a lot of yous out here. There are not a lot of Michelles out here.
But Barry, my hope and my genuine prayer is that the next generation will have it different.
Absolutely.
It's okay about being a trailblazer.
But will they? I mean, because there's so many distractions. With this is it Generation X? I lose.
Right,
I lose
Generation X.
Generation X. There's so many distractions for them, you know, and they don't understand, especially within the African American youth community, don't understand. I think you have to know your history.
Exactly.
And know what happened for you to really understand. If you don't watch yourself, all that could be removed from you, and you have to start all over again. All the groundwork that has been laid, you must be cognizant, you know. But they're just, you know, the videos and the, you know, they have everything literally at the touch of their fingers, and that's what is in front of them. That is what is important to them. That's how I see it anyway.
You gave an interesting account to me.
Well, one of the things that I always tell the young people that I teach at Central State, and I said, what's old is new and what's new is old. And what happens is that when they talk about, let's just talk about hip hop and rap. Well, Phyllis Wheatley was a poet. Paul Laurence Dunbar was a poet. So what happened, the music just changed the culture, but the poems and the life stories were already there. So you're not talking about anything new. You just changed, you tweaked it. But what I have really expressed recently to my students is that when you spill the milk, you got to clean it up.
Whoa.
And you can't expect for somebody else to clean up your spilled milk. And what I'm saying is take responsibility, because the definition of an adult, in my mind, is that it's the moment that you assume responsibilities for your actions and you financially take care of yourself. So that could be at 10, it may be at 60, or it may never be. And I think that the whole concept of maturity versus age is what we really need to work with our young people. That they need to understand, you may have the age, but you do not have the maturity.
Yeah, the emotional quotient. Yeah,
very
the
good.
EQ.
Yes, and that's what we have to distinguish to them, because if your 18-year-old child tells you, I'm grown, I'm leaving, okay, can you take care of yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
But see, I think the difference is our parents told us when we were going to leave. I know my mother told me, you know, you are gone. It wasn't me telling her, you know, I'm 18, I think I better leave. When I was 15, she said, I break your plate at this table, okay, which is an old African proverb, meaning that you no longer have space at my table. You have to start making your own table. I think when we were talking about the technology and things at the children's fingertips, rap versus County Cullen or versus Phyllis Wheatley or whatever, is that it's filtered differently, that it's not organic. We got County Cullen, we got Phyllis Wheatley, we got Paul Laurence Dunbar, and it was organic. Now how they get it, it's filtered. They don't have to think about it. We had to learn it.
That's
they
right.
don't have to think about it. It's delivered. And it's delivered in such a way that it's filtered. And so they don't have to feel it. I know when I think about our age group, is that we were part of the struggle. We went through the struggle. We saw our parents struggle, and then we saw the whole struggle. That's missing for this generation, and that's what worries me about it.
But whose
is that
fault
that's
is that?
missing.
Is that our
I don't know
fault in
if
a
it's a
sense?
fault.
Are we responsible for that as parents? Did we try to pave the way a little smoother? Have we done it to the generation?
Well, what do you think about that?
Sometimes I think that we have, in our attempt to make everything so okay for them, because our generation might be better educated than the generation prior to in terms of the whole. That we want to, best school's got to be, nope, that school doesn't cost enough. We got to send them to the other ones, you know. And have we done this generation a disservice?
Well, we came up in the generation with the Dr. Spot too, where the Dr. Spot said, you know, let these kids express themselves. We came up in a generation where our parents, I mean, you can remember, most of us at this table in some form of fashion has protested or picketed.
Oh,
or done,
absolutely.
Yes,
been
are
a
you kidding?
true activist in every sense of the word. And that we've experienced not being able to go to a restaurant and be waited on or ignored. We've experienced these things. Our young people, what we're guilty of is not telling the story.
Absolutely.
That's what we are guilty of, is not telling the story.
But when you do tell the story, I go back to how we've made things easier for them, and we've allowed them to ignore hardships, whether they are financial or whether they are social. And we have done that by placing them in arenas that are to make them think that they are going to be accepted no matter what, and that may not always be true. And so we have not told the story, but when we tell the story, they don't believe it. Oh, Mom.
You're right.
Mom,
like
you're too sensitive.
Yeah, you're very
You're
sensitive.
too
Part
sensitive.
of it to them, it's like ancient history because of the technology and because of things, like I said, instant. So something that happened, you know, what do they have those things? Oh, this is old and this is new. They have all of these measurements, and old might be a month.
Actually,
You're right.
Old might be a month.
The phone
This
is too old now.
All the technology, it changes. As soon as they bring this out, the next one that's coming, you know, and so old to them, old to us, or, you know, what's old is old.
And we cherish it, and we cherish it.
And we hold on to it, and remember it, and we celebrate it. But old to them nowadays, to me, is
It's
like a nanosecond.
It's like bye.
You know?
And it is.
And it is.
And one of the things that we were talking about in one of my classes is that how did it get that way? Who is in control of marketing, and merchandising, and filtering. And so these young people, but we are still take responsibility that when they were young, that we didn't start telling them about their history. So by the time, many of them, when they get through their school system, because schools now are teaching for you to pass tests.
Right.
And so therefore there's no time for that filtering of having alumni come in or important people, and if they do, they have one day and it doesn't click.
Right.
So we don't have the jobs that they used to be able to have for young people where they could earn a living or at least get a taste of how to handle money.
Right.
And one of the things that's really missing in our culture is the power of money and the understanding of money. And where does that come from? We have to teach them before they get there and not after.
But the challenge is, and I've said this over the years, not only how do we do it, but when are parents and grandparents willing to have a change of thinking that will impact on these generations. If children grow up hearing their parents say, I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate this job, then as I tell parents, how dare you be upset that they don't want to leave the house and get a job. You've told them for 18 years you hate your job, and they, by association, are like, what do I want? When children associate parents having a job but not ever having enough money.
Right.
And that is a real American experience today. And it was growing up. We didn't grow up with our parents having unlimited resources. If they did, they didn't talk about it. But we knew there was a limitation and that we had to live within our means. My concern is that we have a generation that is emerging that has no concept. They have no concept or understanding, not only of the foundations of our culture that made us the women we are today. Because you just didn't happen to get to be strong. Strength is created through, again, that iron sharpening iron, dealing with stuff, having to persevere and then overcoming and then moving to the next level. I don't, maybe I'm being wrong. You're in the educational arena as well as politics. What do you think?
Well, I think the number one social problem is education. I think the number one solution to social problems is education. But we have a generation that one of the things that we know for a fact, you can't teach what you don't know. So if you got a parent that doesn't know, how are they going to teach a child
That's exactly
what they
how
know?
I feel. Yeah.
I think basic manners, we are from a group that we were taught manners.
Yes.
Which is wrong. We assume that because they are at certain age levels and things like that, that they should know manners. But if they haven't been taught, they don't know them. And one of the things I always say is that a 5-year-old doesn't cuss. He just repeats what he hears. And so I practice what I call verbal ecology, because ecology is the cleaning of the earth and verbal is the cleaning of your mouth. So a kid, when you're in children, watch you.
Yes,
they watch you. They watch you when you don't even know they're watching you. So if you're sending out these words, the kids are going to repeat them because they came from someone that they admire and they see. And I really believe that each one of us, every day, every adult wakes up, they are writing a news story. And there's people reading that story as they walk through the day. And what is your story saying? Is it a positive story? Is it a negative story? Because how they read that story tells a lot about you and how it will go over into these young people's lives.
So you're in the media, and that's been your story, and that's a position you found yourself for 30 years. That's a long time. What gem of advice would you give young people today?
I would like them to read more. That is, when I go to schools or go to organizations and young people are there, that's the first thing, that's the first message that I give them, is to read. I want them to be knowledgeable. I want them to learn how to create a basic good sentence. Because my mother used to say, and bless her heart, she was so politically incorrect back in the 50s and 60s, reading makes a ready man. Now we have to say reading makes a ready person.
Right.
But I just think you become exposed to different lifestyles, different cultures, different events, different things that can help shape you. You know, perhaps you didn't get something from your family, but to me, by exposing yourself through books and just good constant reading every day, you can become a different person and shape something different.
I agree. Books are magical.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
Take
What
you
about
places.
you, Barry?
I think I challenge the parents of young children to spend more quality time with them.
Yes.
My mother did not have to compete with iTunes, iPods, computers. And my mother used to say, and I laugh about this all the time, when certain TV shows came on, like Amos and Andy, or the Little Rascals or whatever, she would say, turn that off. That has nothing to do with you.
I love that. Turn that off.
That has
That is
nothing to
correct.
do with you. Go read a book.
Yes, ma'am. That's what
Go
I'm
read
saying.
a book.
But that's what I'm saying. I agree with both
yeah,
of you.
yeah.
But I'm saying it's the parent to say that, because a parent should not have to compete with Facebook.
Ever.
Okay, ever. Turn it off.
Right.
You know, one of the things I love about, I mean, I love lots of things about her, but I particularly loved when Michelle Obama said, you know, Sasha and Malia watch TV for a couple of hours on the weekend. That's
I love that.
It.
Right.
That's it. But more and more parents let the little handheld devices, the computer, the television, whatever it is, become the babysitter, i.e. the parent. So then the children don't have critical thinking, which I think is important. You read, and then you take what you read, and then you apply it. And you have to have critical thinking skills.
Yes.
You know, whether it's money is a utensil.
That's all.
It's a
utility.
utility.
It's a
It's
utility.
a utility.
That's all.
Okay? So you have to have critical thinking. So whatever you're dealing with, if it's money, if it's people, if it's whatever it is, that you can deal with it and you can critically think, is this good for me? Is it bad for me? Is it good or bad for the world? However, whatever your thinking is, however small it is or however large it is, it has to go through that critical path so that you can get the results that you want, however small they are, however large they are.
Right. I think that's very, very wise information that you've just shared, and particularly around that whole lifestyle learning sequence today. And I am concerned because everything does not proceed rapid speed.
No.
And sometimes I wonder if we're not in the spin cycle. Do you ever feel like that?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a
All
part
the
of
time.
aging?
All the
Where I'm
time.
like, wow, I'm just not getting this fast enough. And yet I look at the outcome. I look at where we are as a society today. And the rage and the, as you said, a lot having been taught manners.
Basics. The basic stuff. It's just basic.
Basics, like when you get a gift, write a thank you note.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. Graduation, if people bought you something, are we not entitled to a thank you note? Or something to acknowledge that you appreciated it? And that seems to have gone by the wayside. Or am I missing it?
No, the basics. One thing that deeply concerns me and has concerned me since the first of these kinds of shows showed up, Big Brother, Survivor, you know, if you're not the way I quite like you or something a little wrong with you, poof, you're gone. They can just kick people out.
Yeah.
That I saw, everybody was so crazy about those shows when they first started maybe 10 years ago. They frightened me.
No,
Because I
like
said,
them.
look at this. This is madness. There's something not quite right about you. So I'm just going to erase you and you just have to leave this house. You can't be around us because you're not this, you're not quite that.
Right.
I said, do you know what this message is?
Right.
My kid said, Mom, everything is, you blow everything up. I said, no, this is society as a whole.
Right.
This is what we are becoming. That there's,
Absolutely.
you're too something or you're not enough of something and I'm just going to get rid of you.
Yes.
You don't deserve to be around me because I'm this and I'm
Right.
perfect and I'm going to mow you down
Yes.
and so that I can get that money.
Well,
That's
and I
scary
think-
to me.
And I think that goes back to Facebook. If you say something I don't like, I just
Unfriend
unfriend
you.
you.
Exactly.
I was
Exactly.
amazed because that's just how technologically incompetent I am because I have a Facebook account and I did not know how to get rid of people that I did not like. They said something.
I didn't know you could do that until
Yeah,
recently.
I just found my
Unfriend.
daughter said, unfriend them.
Some
I
people
said,
got rid of me.
how do you do that?
But see, that's unfortunate again because now you're only having people who believe what you believe,
Exactly.
who think like you think,
Yeah.
who want what you want. I mean, and that's unfortunate because that's not the way the world is.
Not at all.
And again, you know, you're in this cyber world. And so you then carry that over into the real world.
And that's a
then
problem.
That's the danger.
That's a problem.
That's the
Yeah.
challenge.
Now,
Okay, but-
now the other thing I want to mention is that the value of friendships has changed. So
Yeah.
there's friends,
Oh, boy.
there's associates, there's acquaintances, and there's passerbys. Those are people that pass by in your life, you have a relationship with them, and they're gone. Facebook has really confused the issue on who's a friend.
Right.
And so you have a lot of people now don't know the difference between a friend, an acquaintance, an associate, and a passerby. And when time, as strong women,
Yes.
we know that when the times get tough, we know who our friends are.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they're few and far and in between, but those that are there are true.
Right.
And that's the test of a real friend. Because on Facebook, if I say something you don't like, then immediately I unfriend you. Then therefore, you weren't my friend. And one of the things that I think is very important that we have to learn as we go through life, I may be your friend, but you aren't a friend to me. And we got to know those differences.
That is extremely powerful. I may be your friend, but you may not be my friend.
Right.
How does one make a difference? Because I look at all three of you and I consider you friends. I do. I consider each one of you as a woman that if you had a need and I can help, I will help.
But you're certainly different from most. That's for
That
sure.
is a very disappointing sense. It is, because as we are in terrible times, no question about it, whether the politicians want to acknowledge it, I'm telling you from my side of the fence, as a money person, this is unprecedented. And I spoke to that actually on Facebook, which is, if you don't have genuine relationships, you're going to starve. You're going to starve because nobody's going to be moved to help you. And that's relationships. Isn't that what a relationship is about?
You're seeing that already, not just on a micro level with your friends. You're seeing that. I mean, that's what the whole push with the government is about. It's not even helping people, you know, who, when the Depression was before, the whole push with the government was to help people, was to make jobs, was to, you know, make Social Security, was to make Medicare. I mean, all of that came out of the Depression. Now you see we're in a depression, we're headed for a depression, and they're trying, you know, certain entities, certain political entities are trying to even take that away. So if you don't have your immediate friends and the government is not your friend, you're just out there. That's chaos. That's anarchy.
I agree.
I agree with that, and I think that as when we think about, I think it's a subterfuge to say that they want to make us think that it's the immigrants, it's the Latinos, it's this group, and it's just, but the key issue is economic discrimination.
Absolutely.
And if all these groups could rise up together and fight back on the economic discrimination, we'd be a much better place. But a lot of the political entities that are in place, that's what they thrive on, is this division.
Right.
Which is not the big picture.
It is definitely not the big picture. Because if we look at what's happening in terms of the notion of the middle class, which I've always questioned, it's the concept of a middle class, but as we look at this, the bottom line is that people are becoming poorer, people have less, people are certainly not enjoying the quality of life they did a decade ago, and there is this animosity against the government. And I guess I'm having a hard time understanding, why are people so angry at the very entity to which we have been so well rewarded? Social Security, Medicare.
But I think it goes back to what Bari was saying, and the filtering, and what Marsha was saying, all these little seconds of information, and they only hear the last thing. And it just sticks. But also it shows that in where we're going back to education, is that the people who are educated and are of means vote. The people who do not vote, and they do not participate in their government, and they see the government as an enemy and not as a place that is going to put more pressure on them. I think of the book of 1984, and was one sentence in that whole big, thick book that really has got us right here now, that really frightens me. It says, keep the masses ignorant so you can maintain your power. And the very things that could help the people are the things that they are attacking. And number one thing they are attacking is education.
Absolutely.
Which I'm just astounded. I guess maybe I'm naive here, but I did not realize there was so much animosity around the concept of education.
What I don't understand is when I hear and read about state governments cutting education budgets.
I'm like, what?
I don't understand that.
I don't understand, unless it comes out of the elite European model where the only people entitled to education were the elite and the money.
Is that
I
what
think
it's
that's
getting
where
to?
we're headed.
And that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
That's
And
where
I
we're
was gonna
headed.
say, this isn't, we're talking about America, but if you look at what's happening in Greece, what just happened in Italy, this is global.
Yes.
This is global. It's not, like I said, if you want to live your world, you know, micro world, but we live in a global environment.
Yes,
So we
we
live in
do.
a global economy. Okay?
Right.
We live in a global, what is it, the geopolitical.
Right, right.
And
So
if that,
what happens one place, it's dominoes.
That's right.
and if that doesn't
dominoes.
get straight over there,
Right.
we're in worse trouble than we are
It's
now.
not going to get straight over there. Trust me.
Money lady.
They
Trust
have to
me. The money
stabilize that
lady just
euro
said
some
it.
kind
No,
of way.
yeah.
And
yeah.
I think one issue that we haven't really talked about, but I
Uh-huh.
think that we need to just touch about it politically, and that's the fact that the whole political agenda in this country has been against women's rights. And I'm talking about Lily Ledbetter. That, you know, I mean, you're just thinking about, and it's just amazing to think how far back that they want to push us.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't know if it's back to Leave It to Beaver days where I can be June Cleaver and I dress up and I cook and I wait for Ward, but it just seems to be a time where the value of a female and her presence is antagonistic.
How did that happen?
I'd like to know how it happened, because I will tell you, the thought of going back to that lie, first thing, June wasn't even representative of the average female, and
Exactly. I
certainly
was
not
getting
an African-American female. We were cleaning June's house.
Yeah.
Our mothers and grandmothers were mopping her floor.
And June was running around
And
in her
June was
pearls and
running
her
around
heels with her
pearls
apron
and
on.
and talking about have a nice day. And we were like, this is not a nice day.
And we can't go back to June and Ward because Ward had a job, and there are no
Your
jobs.
jobs.
You know, so there are no men leaving, going, you know, and coming back and providing.
You know, it's
But
generally
that's-
it's
yeah,
generally us
That's not
working
the-
2 and 3
exactly.
jobs.
That's what I was
Exactly.
gonna say.
It
We
really
are
is.
Ward. Those of us
Right,
that
right.
work, you know, we are
Right.
Ward. So we can't go back to that. I think they're trying to push it back even further.
Oh my God.
Okay, I think they're trying
Further.
to push it back even
To
further.
which
To
era?
where?
I mean, that's why you're getting movies like,
Pre-slavery?
well, post,
Okay.
antebellum.
Antebellum,
Antebellum. I mean, when you look at movies like The Help,
Oh,
you
please.
start looking at movies where women, that was a women's movie.
Yeah,
There
it
were no real, there was a man in a scene in that movie, hardly. So there were the black women in that movie in a certain role. There were the white women in the movie in a certain role.
And the men who were in it were mean.
Where the black men that were in it were gratuitous and mean. I'm sorry, the black men that were in it were mean.
Right.
And the white men that were in it were gratuitous at best. They
Right.
just kind of, you know,
Kinda
moved
whizzle,
in,
weasel.
but they
Except
weren't.
for the one guy who
Right.
was so upset with her because she was so kind to the maid.
Right. But I think they're trying to push it back even further, because when you talk about economic disparity, but they're also trying to do health, you know, women's choices, you know, your choice with your health. And they're even taking it back to the point that if you get rid of, if you just talk about abortion, that's one thing. But what was it? They made the move to take breast exams and cervical exams and all of those things out of Planned Parenthood, and try to tie those things, just women's wellness, to try to tie those things to abortion, no matter what you feel
Right.
about it, to try to tie those two things together to get rid of everything.
And you would be surprised at how many insurance companies don't pay for mammograms.
Right.
Are you kidding
Oh.
me? I'm sorry. Now, here I am
Routine,
again. Now I'm
the
going to start
routine
picking
mammograms,
somebody.
not the mammogram after you've already
No,
been diagnosed.
just the routine.
Just
Right, the
pre.
routine,
No,
right.
Preventive.
We will refuse a $150 mammogram.
Right.
Now, I would
Oh,
rather pay,
absolutely.
if I were an insurance company, pay the
Pay the
$150 now than
mammogram.
$150,000 later if
Right.
something's wrong and you don't identify it.
Right.
But see, what I'm trying to understand, and God, I don't know when are you going to come back? Because this is not this conversation has to continue. It has to continue because there's some good things that are coming to the fore. But Barry, we can't go back to antebellum slavery, and women cannot go back to a mindset that says that we are subordinate and inferior.
But that's what's being proposed all the time. When Lily Ledbetter did her suit, okay? And this is not news that women are being paid 70% of what men.
Right.
And that's up from 64%.
That's right.
When the equal pay law was passed. This is what I used to teach at Fairfield University in the business school. I did a corporate social responsibility course, okay? And we covered everything, civil rights, women's rights, all kind of rights. So it's up. See, they're satisfied. They're saying, why are you complaining about 70? When a few years ago it was 64 cents on the dollar, okay? That women have to work from January to April, okay, to get paid what men got paid the whole time. So that's 4 months out of the year you're working and literally not being paid what a man is being paid.
Right.
Okay? Right. So for them to say we don't want equal pay. Okay? We don't want you to have a right to choose. We don't want you to have a right for preventive care. Where does that put us? Where does that put us as all women, not just black women, as all women? Those issues have no color when it comes to women.
Wow.
For them to say we're going to get rid of all the immigrants because there are enough Americans here to go pick the crops. That's why we're getting rid of these people, of the immigrants. That's what they're saying. Okay, you want a job, you go back and start picking cotton. You go back and start picking fruit. That's exactly what the answer is.
That cannot happen. And I'm going to say this because sometimes when the rubber meets the road, and we sit here as not only older women, but women that are seasoned and proven through our own trials and struggles, as I told my daughters, you all are going to have to be the ones that fight for this. You're going to have to be the ones to fight. You're going to have to fight again because there are forces that are determined to take us back to a place that we are not going back to. You got to be kidding me. Are you going back there?
Oh, no.
Talking about a revolution.
And you know, one of the things that we have to be consciously aware of, and I do want to put this in on the table, is that when we're not invited to the table, we are on the menu.
Woo!
And then we got to remember that at all times.
I love that. We have, time is up. Time is up.
It went quickly.
It went
was
fast.
a pleasure.
It went fast.
So much to think about.
to talk about. I am challenged. Barry and I talked about yesterday about pulling together an agenda, a conference. Yes. Consortium, a national of women like-minded, and to bring in our young women in the rear to begin a woman of her caliber and your caliber and yours and myself.
A good place for that would be Central State University to start a public policy forum for women.
I love it.
I
love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yes.
I thank all of you for listening in to today's segment of The Power of Money. You take care and God bless. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Did I get you on time? Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
That was